can play it a little safer.
Bo Nix was born to be an Auburn Tiger, and so far through 1 year under center for the Tigers, it looks like Bo could go down as one of the best Auburn quarterbacks to ever do it. But what is his story, and how did he get to this point? In today's video, we'll be talking about the incredible story in Auburn sophomore quarterback Bo Nix, and why he could potentially become a future college football superstar. But first, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel and help me reach 11,000 subscribers, and also drop a future video suggestion and turn on post notifications so you never miss another upload. Now let's get started with the rise of Bo Nix. In order to fully understand the story of Bo Nix, we need to go back in time and understand where the Nix family's ride with Auburn began. Patrick Nix grew up in Auburn territory as he was born and raised in the state of Alabama. Eventually, Patrick became a high school standout and would choose to play for Auburn. He would spend some time as a backup, but he'd eventually take over as a starter, and he excelled. He helped lead the Tigers to an 11-0 record his sophomore year, and by the time he had left Auburn, he was one of the greatest and most beloved quarterbacks in Tiger football history. He would later take the head coaching job at Henderson State University, but he wasn't very good as he went 3-19 in 2 seasons there. Around that same time, he gave birth to his first son, Bo. This is where Bo's story starts, as apparently he loved football from a very young age, and he also wanted nothing to do with traditional kids' toys such as Legos or cars. He was all about football all the time, and he would only watch TV when his dad would put on old football films. From 2002 to 2006, when Bo's dad was the offensive coordinator for Georgia Tech, he would paint a football field out on the grass in the backyard, and little Bo would suit up in full pads and an Auburn jersey and play out in the yard. He would pretend to be the Auburn starting quarterback, and he would throw the ball to his other family members. Little did he know how accurate that scene would become later on. By the time he was in 3rd grade, Bo was watching his dad's football practices and learning the throwing mechanics of pro players. After his dad was fired by Miami, he took over coaching for his son's flag football team, and him and Bo would come up with game plans. Somehow as only a 3rd grader, Bo Nix was reading defenses and preparing for games like the big-time guys did. When he got to 5th grade, his dad took the wide receivers job at Charleston Southern, and Bo would throw to the players and run drills with them. Apparently, Bo would get so upset when he lost the drills that they had to remind him that he was going up against college kids. But Bo didn't care, he wanted to win. By the time he was in 8th grade, he was already the starting quarterback for Scottsboro High School, and scouts began to realize he was going to be a big-time recruit. His father would then become the head coach of the high school, and Nix was developing into a star. He said he tried to model his game after greats such as Johnny Manziel and Deshaun Watson, but that kind of game wasn't going to be all that sustainable. When he was a sophomore, his father implemented an option-style offense similar to the one that is ran at Auburn. Bo was a film guru, as he would do his homework and then wait for his dad to return home so they could talk ball and review his film from the previous game. After his dad took a job at Pinson Valley High School, Bo transferred there as a junior, and his stock began to grow even more. He would become the state of Alabama's all-time leader in career yards and touchdowns while there, and he would also lead them to 2 straight state titles. He was considered the top dual-threat quarterback in high school recruiting, but it wasn't as obvious as it seemed to where he would end up. It would ultimately come down to Auburn and Ohio State, actually. Gus Malzahn had begun recruiting him in 8th grade. He was a diehard fan of Auburn, and his dad had a legacy there, but Ohio State was still an option. Everyone knew he was still leaning towards Auburn though, and once Gus Malzahn's contract was extended by Auburn, that was the final domino and Nix committed to the Tigers. This was the biggest quarterback recruit of the Malzahn era, and Nix had a ton of hype going into Auburn. According to 24/7 Sports, Bo Nix was a 5-star recruit, the #1 dual-threat quarterback, and the 33rd best player in the class of 2019. Nix was good, but he wasn't the first-string quarterback going into Auburn. Going into the 2019 season, Nix was expected to battle with the starting job with fellow big-time recruit Joey Gatewood. Nix would emerge from camp as the starter though, and Gatewood would later transfer to Kentucky. Nix would be the first true freshman to start in a long time for the Tigers, but he was ready for the task. Auburn was picked to finish 4th in the grueling SEC West, and they were under head coach Gus Malzahn. Nix would be thrusted into the spotlight immediately, as they were going to be playing in one of the Week 1 premier matchups against the Oregon Ducks. In his first career start, Nix kept Auburn in the game, but he had struggled as he threw 2 interceptions. With just a few seconds to play though, the Tigers were in position to tie the game with a field goal, but Nix had other plans.
Play a little safer.
After that game-winning touchdown pass, Auburn went on to win the game, and Bo had already become an Auburn legend. Bo said he was born for that moment, and everyone believed Nix had already shown he could become a future college football superstar. The following week, he'd lead them to a win over a sneaky good Tulane team, and then another win against Kent State. Against number 17 Texas A&M, the Tigers got off to a big lead, but they would almost blow it. Luckily, they withstood the charge by the Aggies, and Auburn was now 4-0. Nix would throw 2 touchdowns in their win over Mississippi State, and all of a sudden, they were 5-0, and people were starting to wonder if the Auburn Tigers were legit college football playoff contenders. But they had a huge test coming up. Their matchup was going to be on the road in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium against the number 10 Florida Gators. Unfortunately for Auburn, Nix was hit with a dose of reality as he really struggled and threw 3 interceptions in their loss. This was a tough blow to Auburn's season, but they were not out of the SEC West race quite yet, and Nix was only a freshman. Luckily, they had a cupcake the following week as he threw for 3 scores against Arkansas, but he didn't get too comfortable as he would be matched up with Joe Burrow's Tigers the following week. Burrow and LSU had seemingly come out of nowhere to this point, but Auburn was ready to show they weren't going to back down. In what was the closest game for LSU in 2019, LSU won the game by 3, but Auburn was in it the whole time. He would throw for a career-high 340 yards in their win over Ole Miss, but he did so without a touchdown pass. They lost another close game the following week, this time to number 4 Georgia. They got their annual win against an FCS school the next week before Nix was going to be thrusted into his first Iron Bowl. Almost 30 years earlier, Patrick Nix had made a name for himself in their win against Alabama, and now his son was going to have a chance to make his own legacy. In one of the best games of the season, Auburn defeated Alabama in the Iron Bowl, and Auburn finished with a 9-3 regular season record. Nix was a young star, and the Tigers were matched up with Minnesota in the Outback Bowl, but Bo really didn't have that good of a game. One of the Cinderella teams of 2019, Minnesota beat Auburn, and they finished with a 9-4 record. As a freshman, Nix had his growing pains, but he still managed to throw for 2,542 yards, 16 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. He was voted the SEC Freshman of the Year, and he was one of the brightest young stars in college football. Going into 2020, I fully expect Nix to build upon his freshman campaign, and I think Auburn could be a sleeper college football playoff contender. I really like Nix personally, and his throw against Oregon is one of my favorite moments of the 2019 season. He has a really cool story, and I really do hope he lives up to the hype his dad left him by the time he leaves Auburn. I think one day he'll also be in the NFL, and he has all the tools to be a good quarterback. If you enjoyed his story, think Nix is a young star, or just want to support the channel, be sure to smash that like button, and also help me reach 11,000 subscribers by the end of September. If you are still here, check out my video about the rise of Alabama quarterback Mac Jones, and all my other 2020 college football star videos. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, but until next time, peace.